to Real Life Beyond Faith, where a formerly Christian, currently atheist couple takes a deep dive into the experience of life after deconversion. This is episode 8. I'm your host, Jenica Crail.
And I'm your host, Patrick Crail. So today we are doing the second part of a two-parter of the Q&A. We had posted on Facebook asking people for questions that we could talk about in an episode. Last week we did a handful of questions. There were some really good questions. We didn't get to all of them, so this week we're going to finish them up.
There were so many great questions. I didn't want to try to answer them too quickly and skip over, the depth that could be had there.
Or have a 2-hour show.
Oh, right.
So
we decided to split
2 parts.
It up. Yeah.
But before we do, we were going to talk about some random things.
Yeah, do you have that news article or whatever you looked up earlier?
No, it's on my phone, which we are doing video with right now, so I can't look it up. But
yeah,
it was an article from Fox News. Apparently, it was in the science tab. But
this is awesome.
Speaking of, where I found this was on Facebook from a post that one of our patrons actually made. So thank you, Jeff. But this article was on Fox News about science, saying that there's a new theory that the world's about to end on September 23rd. So if you guys aren't ready, you better go get your last minute supplies, get your milk and bread.
The world is coming to an end. You won't need that stuff.
Well, it's not going to come to an end for everybody right at once. Right?
Oh, because of what, rapture and stuff?
Yeah. Gotcha. But the theory is that the world's coming to an end because of the hurricanes and because of the solar eclipse. And based on those, someone then used numerology to figure out the date that the world's going to end.
So ridiculous. Yeah, because that's what natural disasters mean. Means the world is coming to an end. I just think it's funny that was in the science section on Fox News. Of course it was.
Yeah. What is scientific about that?
How much more of a joke can they become? But yeah, strap in, because Saturday, end of the world. Prepare thyself.
Good luck.
See you guys on the other side. So I wanted to bring something up briefly. For those of you who may be leaving religion relatively recently, who are maybe starting to get into podcasts, getting into the atheist community, atheist movement, whatever you want to call it, you may notice that there has been a little bit of drama going on, a little bit of infighting. It can be very frustrating, especially when you're standing back seeing people that you love and respect going at each other. And I wanted to kind of encourage everyone. You may not know even what's going on, but just in general, when you leave religion, you're not leaving human nature behind. We all are human. We all have certain, character flaws that we bring into religion or we bring into whatever we do. One of those things is being overly dramatic, not forgiving, seeing things in black and white, not having enough nuance. All of these things are just part of the human condition. So when you leave religion, you're not necessarily going to see those traits left behind. A lot of us saw within the church, divisiveness and infighting and people just being shitty to each other. And then we leave religion thinking we're leaving that behind too. It's not necessarily true. And that's not to say don't get involved in your atheist communities or in the atheist movement or whatever you want to call it, humanism, whatever. Definitely do. And I want to encourage you that we can still do good as a community and we can still have an impact on the world in a positive way, even though there are shitty people within our community. So don't look at this. I mean, I can only give my opinion on this. I can't tell you what to do. But I would encourage you not to see this drama and just throw your hands up and say, I quit, I'm out. Because, I mean, drama and, frustrating situations like this are just a part of life. And we need to push forward and do the most that we can do and the best we can do with what we have. And all we have is our human nature. So I want to encourage you. It's also kind of depressing to think that you can't escape that part of our human nature. But I want to encourage you to not give up, to keep pushing forward, to keep trying to be reasonable and rational, and encouraging your friends to do the same. I want to encourage everyone to be forgiving and understanding, to see the good in people, because even if you disagree with someone, there may be areas where you agree with them, and try to see the good in that person. Yes, absolutely. If they have bad ideas, challenge those bad ideas. But also realize that we're all in this pretty much together, as long as we're all fighting for good, just causes. Yes, there are some people in the atheist movement who are absolutely not fighting for just causes, and they're just being troublemakers. But I would say the majority of us want good.
Now, we're not saying that you should just ignore other people's differences and, ignore shitty things that people have said or done. That's not the point. Like, yeah, people get hurt. People say hurtful things. That's not the point. The point is we can be more productive as a whole if we are able to, depending on the issue, work together, work through the issues, forgive each other, if it is, even possible. But, like Jenica said, find the good things that you do agree on and, try to be productive if you do want to be part of this so-called movement.
Yeah, spewing insults and hate gets us absolutely nowhere. Constructive criticism, yeah, we all need that. We all need to be challenged on our bad ideas. But to come at each other just like throwing insults or blocking each other, it seems like it's just not helpful.
Yeah. And this is a tricky subject because, like I said, people have said and done hurtful things. So it could sound like we're saying, oh, just ignore it and move past it, which, it's a tricky subject to be able to approach without sounding, condescending to the people who have been hurt.
Right. Yeah, I would agree. And I want to stress that I am definitely not saying not to challenge people, because I think absolutely, and I don't think you need to be friends with everyone in the movement.
Right.
There are some people who, there's just no coming back from it. But I don't know, like I just want to err on the side of fighting together. And I know that that's not going to be totally possible in every situation, but I don't know. Just try to keep some hope about it. I know it can be frustrating, and I'm right there with you. But let's all try to do this human thing together. Another thing I wanted to mention is that we will be doing interviews soon. I know that's one of the things that we promised you guys, and we are working out to the kinks of that. We did an interview recently with a friend of ours, and the audio was so bad we had to ditch it. There was a thunderstorm going on while we were recording with her on her end, and we had to just get rid of the audio. We tried a lot of things.
We even had Callie from Atheist Manifesto try to help us out with her fancy, audio software.
Yeah.
And it took out some of the sound, but
yeah. So we're going to figure out like maybe some different software to use to record their audio separate from our audio, because we kind of recorded it all together in this big jumbled mess, and it was just bad. So anyway, long story short, interviews are coming soon, and we're really excited to bring you guys some very interesting stories. We have some people lined up that are super exciting. Like there's one lady we're going to be interviewing, she actually is married to a pastor. Well, he's not pastoring right now, kind of because of, the situation with her not believing anymore. But she has, I think, 3 kids, and she just has a really interesting perspective and a really interesting story. I'm excited to kind of dig into that. And then the girl that we recently interviewed that it didn't work out with the audio, she is a survivor of domestic abuse and an ex-Christian. So she has a really insightful story of escape and
deconversion.
Yes.
Hey, all you listeners, I'm Robert.
And I'm Amy from Secular Yakking.
And we just wanted to let you know that if you've got 30 minutes to kill,
then we're the podcast for you. We're just some old married couple who's been yakking at each other over the many years.
And we thought we should start making it so you can listen in on our yakking.
We dig past the mainstream and bring you the news that you may or may not have heard about.
We take a look at politics, religion, science, and pretty much anything we feel like yakking about and sharing it with you. And let us not forget our weekly Mr. Potter Award.
No, we're not professionals on anything we talk about, but we love to yak about stuff and give you our opinion on the matter.
So tune in at secularyakking.com or check out our feed on iTunes, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, and anywhere good podcasts can be heard.
And who knows what craziness will happen.
Yeah, just like this.
Hi, I'm Trav Mamone.
And I'm Morgan Stringer.
Do you like drunken rants, major shade throwing, and semi-funny skits?
Do you often find yourself reading the news and thinking, are you shitting me?
Then check out the Bi Skeptical podcast.
Every 2 weeks, we discuss politics, religion, and current events from a skeptical point of view.
You can find us on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher.
Check us out, because in the end, we're all a little bi-curious.
Last time we left off on Christopher's question. Christopher asks, what are your thoughts on the idea of soulmates? That's actually a really interesting question, and I'm glad you brought it up. When I was a Christian, I feel like it was a bigger deal to me, this question, because there was, of course, the idea of a soul. Now, I actually don't even believe that humans have souls. So the idea of soulmates is kind of irrelevant at this point. But as a Christian, I kind of wrestled with it a little bit because it made a difference whether or not I believed that. Because, in looking for someone I would marry, I had to kind of grapple with the idea that there might be this one person out there who is the absolute perfect person meant for me by God, and that I need to find that person before I can even consider marriage. So basically, I'd be waiting for a sign in the sky for God to tell me, yes, this is absolutely the person that you need to marry. And it was kind of stressful. I had this burden on my shoulders of needing to, find this one person within the 7 billion people on our planet, and thinking, if I mess up and I marry the wrong person, then I'm screwed because I don't believe in divorce. Mm-hmm. So I've committed my entire life to this person that turns out to not be my soulmate. And then, if I do meet my soulmate, which, supposedly God will always bring your soulmate into your life or whatever, then I would be in love with this person who I should have married, but I'm stuck married to this person that is just like subpar. So it was like really stressful for me in my early 20s. Like, I was in love with someone who I thought I was supposed to marry, but he wasn't sure. And it was just really stressful to have that hanging over my shoulder. I eventually decided, even as a Christian, that the idea of a soulmate didn't make sense, and that there were probably, several people in the world who would be, quote unquote, perfect for me. and I just have to find one of those people. And, it's still a really big deal because the person you marry, you have to commit your whole life to, and you can't divorce them. So it was still like a really important decision, but not like as desperately important as if there was just one person out there. What about you, Patrick? Have you ever thought about that?
I hadn't really thought about it in too much depth. Just wasn't something that was, I guess, super important to me. I guess thinking about it, I didn't believe that there were such things as soulmate. I had thought there might be the one for you, but calling them a soulmate, like, this is the person you're supposed to be with, more of like, all right, this person is awesome. We're awesome together. We were, quote unquote, meant to be together,
Yeah.
But as far as being destiny and like a soulmate, like you said, there's like 7 billion people in the world.
Mm-hmm.
The chances of us, living somewhere else in the world, being born in a different country, different culture, just the number of people and the chances of people that you would encounter as a soulmate are pretty slim.
Yeah.
So I always thought, just find that person that you do really well with and go with it. But divorce brought in another element to that.
Mm-hmm.
Just like you were mentioning, same thoughts. But
yeah.
I mean, of course, now I don't think there's soulmates still.
Right. Yeah. Now it's irrelevant. And I don't think that divorce is a sin. So, you can be with someone who you think is just absolutely perfect for you. And maybe they're perfect for you for 20 years. And then you both just decide that you've grown apart or something. There's nothing wrong with splitting up at that point. I mean, I would prefer to stay married to you forever.
Yeah.
That's me talking at 7 years into our marriage, and we're happier now than we've ever been with each other.
Mm-hmm.
And I hope that it stays this way until we're old and dying.
Yeah.
But the freedom of knowing that we're choosing to be together because we want to and not because we have to is kind of refreshing. It can be scary for maybe our family if they're listening to this to hear me say, I don't believe that divorce is wrong. And, you and I could someday be divorced. Really, it's just a freeing feeling. So.
Shall we move on to the next question?
Yeah.
All right. Johnny asks, do you think it's indoctrination to teach your kids skepticism and that religion and God is false? I mean, it can be. Could be, depending on how you teach them.
Well, there's two separate questions there, because he's saying, do you think it's indoctrination to teach your kids skepticism? That answer is definitely no.
Right.
To teach them religion is false, that answer for me would be yes.
Yeah.
So I know like it's phrased as one question, but I would split those into two, because teaching them skepticism is teaching them critical thinking.
Right. That's not indoctrination.
Right. That's what we're doing, is we're trying to teach our kids how to think and not what to think. But if you're teaching your kids religion is absolutely false and you're just like drilling it into their head, I would say that's just as much indoctrination as telling them that it's true. So I would rather my kids come to their own conclusions on that. Plus, if they come to their own conclusions, it'll be a more solid foundation that they have those conclusions on, instead of just being like, well, mom and dad told me so. So
it'll be their own belief and not something that's been passed down to them.
Right. So what's that second question there?
What traditions have you carried over from your religion that you still do?
Holidays. Like Christmas, Easter. I mean, we don't go to church and stuff for the holidays, but
we still gather with family and
yeah. Well, I think we go to church with your parents for like Christmas stuff, don't we?
Yeah, we have. Yeah.
I'm not opposed to going to church. I actually find it kind of fascinating now coming from this perspective. There have been times when I've like opted to go to church when I didn't need to.
Yeah.
Just to, I don't know, experience it from an outsider's perspective. It's fascinating to me. like the workings of my own mind and how my biases are different now and stuff, and how I question everything that they say now.
Right.
I kind of like it. But I don't know. What other traditions? I mean, we weren't really into traditions.
Yeah.
So, and I was kind of anti-tradition, in fact. I felt like it was too, I don't know, like it nailed you down. Like you had to do this thing every year, even if you got to the point at some point that you just didn't want to do it anymore.
Just
like
doing it for tradition's sake.
Right. Like if you had to watch a certain movie every like Christmas season, at some point you're going to get sick of that fucking movie. So,
I mean, if you like tradition, you know, it's fine.
oh yeah, like some people are all into tradition and I don't see anything wrong with that. I'm just not one of those people. It feels like too much pressure, and whenever there's too much pressure, I don't enjoy something.
Yeah.
So, good question. And then I think he has one more question there.
What 2 things do you guys disagree on? For example, my wife and I never rallied on the same conclusion on zoos, morality, raising awareness for animals versus animal cruelty.
What do we disagree on?
We agree on a lot of things.
Yeah, we've gotten pretty lucky. Like we even agree on, you know, color schemes and stuff for the house. It's like kind of freaky how much we agree on things. I disagree with how close you're sitting to the mic. Does that count?
No, that does not count.
I think it counts. I don't know. Do we agree on the level of activism we want to be a part of?
I think for the most part.
Yeah.
I think the only part that differs is my comfort level with, you know, doing stuff like that. Not because I don't believe in it, but just because of personality wise, like being comfortable doing certain things and like being outspoken and like out in public, kind of stuff like that.
Yeah. Like speaking at places
Yeah.
and protesting, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I know that like we disagreed a bit more in the past than what we do now. Like for you, like you just
Right.
kind of wanted to live your normal atheist life. Like just focus on family and stuff, and I was like, we need to go out there and change the world.
Yeah.
But now it seems like we're kind of coming to the middle. Like I'm not as wanting to say yes to every single thing, and you are saying more or saying yes to more things.
Right.
So,
And I've been a little more involved recently, which I've been fine with, and I enjoy doing some of those things, but it's a process, I think. Like, I don't know, my natural inclination isn't to be as outspoken and active. So, you know, it's been pushing me outside of my comfort zone a little bit there, but I've been enjoying it.
yeah. I love that you're enjoying it now.
Yeah.
It's super exciting for me. Because, you know, I don't want to feel like I'm pushing you into anything when I'm doing activist stuff and like asking you to be a part of it too. Now I feel like you just want to.
Yeah.
And it's really cool. It's nice to do it together. I really don't think that we have any major disagreements about stuff. It seems like everything that we've discussed, we come to the same conclusions on them.
Yeah, pretty much.
I mean, who knows? We
I would-
might find something, but
Yeah. If anything, I would say like activities based on if they're indoors or outdoors.
yeah,
I prefer
Because-
outdoors, and
the sun
do not.
hurts my vampire ways.
yeah.
I don't know. Like, I just hate being in direct sunlight. It is miserable, and you love it. You just like soak it up.
Yeah. But as far as like important stuff,
But yeah, we're pretty
We're-
much on the same page.
Yeah.
Pretty lucky in that way. All right, let's move on to the next question.
what are your go-to comfort books, movies, hobbies, etc.? And this is still from Johnny. He's full of questions tonight.
Go to comfort books.
I wouldn't say I have a go-to comfort book. Personally, I don't.
Maybe a genre.
Yeah. Personally, I don't read a whole lot of books like hardback, paperback, whatever. Most of my books I listen to are, well, audiobooks. Because...
That counts.
Well, yeah, I know. I'm just saying, like, I don't sit down and read. But that's mainly because I can't stay awake. I fall asleep like 5 pages in.
You can't stay
kind
awake
of
for
annoying.
TV shows either.
Yeah.
So what kind
But
of
I
books,
watch more TV shows than...
what kind of books do you like to listen to just for like entertainment, comfort, whatever?
I like nonfiction, like science kind of subject books. But also like thrillers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Stephen King.
Yeah.
I'm listening to It right now. Pretty good so far. Starting to get into the crazy stuff.
And I was just recently listening to The Shining. And I listened to another one of his books recently that I just found out they're making a movie out of.
Nice.
It's called Gerald's Game.
Never heard of it.
It's this couple. They go into like a getaway, a weekend getaway at a cabin, like secluded. And he busts out handcuffs, cuffs her to the bed. And after that, he ends up like having a heart attack and like falling on the floor, and she's cuffed to the bed and like stuck there. And yeah.
I mean, that's good and bad at the same time.
How's that good?
Well, if he handcuffs her, oh, he wasn't going to hurt her. It was like for fun.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah. So
Crazy.
and I'm not giving too much away because, well, that stuff is in the movie trailer.
All right, we're going on too many tangents. We have too many questions to get to.
All right.
So
movies,
for me,
shows, hobbies,
what?
books.
Stop it. Trying to answer. I also listen to books, and I like thrillers as well. I also like informational books, like nonfiction. I like...
True crime books. That's one of
I'm
mine.
not really into that.
Bam.
Let's see. Hobbies. I like making jewelry. I enjoy makeup and doing different experimentation with makeup. I enjoy painting, drawing, cooking. I pretty much take up whatever hobby kind of strikes my interest at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I kind of run with it for a while and buy way too many supplies for that hobby.
Yeah.
And drive Patrick crazy because I spend too much money on my hobbies.
For me, it would be doing things outside. Anything I can find to do outside the yard or my car or with the boys.
Any reason I
play-
can find to stay inside is what I do.
I play hockey. That's fun.
Oh, yeah.
Shows, we like Game of Thrones.
Yep. I loved.
Dexter.
Yeah, I was just about to say Dexter. I loved
Yeah.
Dexter when that was on. Now it's
Breaking
gone
Bad.
forever and it breaks my heart. Same with Breaking Bad.
What else was there? There's some good ones.
Yeah, we're watching Orphan Black right now.
Ooh, yeah.
That one is pretty interesting. And the lead character, that one plays multiple roles within the same show. And I'm
Different
just like
accents.
blown away by her and her
Yeah.
talent. So you should check it out. It's a pretty cool show.
All right. Anything else? We good?
Move on to the next question.
Moving on.
We are being kind of like tangenty
That's not a
a
word.
lot. So we need to kind of cut that out.
All right. This one comes from Tony. He says, here's a different one that might break standard fare and stretch the thought process. As an open atheist activist couple, you both are adept at apologetics and debate with regard to all aspects of religion. When engaged in personal dispute as a couple, do you find it more difficult or less to find resolution due to the developed skill set for debate? Asking for a friend. That one's kind of tricky because we don't have a lot of disputes.
But I think that does answer his question because our level of communication at this point is to where we don't really get into heated debates or arguments because we talk things out and discuss things in a Socratic way.
Yeah.
Like there were some things that we were discussing like somewhat recently about like, you know, some changes we were going to make in our life where, you know, it could have easily been a fight or argument, but instead it was like I was asking you questions and kind of drawing out your inner thoughts on the subject, and we just talked through it in a very calm, like rational way instead of, you know, coming at each other from emotions.
Yeah.
So I think it has had an impact in that way. I mean, we never really have had an issue with fighting or arguing a whole lot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's just our personalities or if it was, you know, our pre-marriage counseling where we talked about how to work things out like that.
Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, we've been kind of lucky in that area where we just were able to talk things through without making it too much about emotion and accusatory. I think that's a big part of it, is to not come at the other person accusing or using hyperbolic language like, why do you always, or you never do this. You know, it's better if you come to the person and say, hey, like, this is kind of bothering me. I wanted to bring it up to you. What do you think? Like, approaching it that way. I think we've done a decent job of that.
Yeah. And like we've said before in multiple previous episodes, is open communication, you know, talk about stuff. It helps, what's the right word? Avoid confrontation and arguments, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. All right. Sierra asks, as an atheist, what is your stance on teaching children about Santa and the Easter Bunny? I struggle with whether it's better to let them figure it out on their own with reasoning or not lie to begin with.
That's a great question, Sierra. And I think it's one that can have a couple different angles on. I've seen and I've heard several debates on this subject. Back when I was in college as a young, early 20s adult, and basically multiple times since then as well. It's an interesting question because on one hand, you can teach your kids that Santa is real and then watch them try to, you know, figure it out and reason their way out of it, which, you know, could give them the critical thinking skills that they'll need throughout their life. But on the other hand, it is lying to your kids. And so you have to kind of grapple with, well, do I want to lie to my children, something that I, you know, wouldn't do in any other circumstance, so that they can have the magic of it and then eventually have the reasoning their way out of it? Or do I want to just be truthful with them from the start and give them all the reason in the world to trust me, and then teach them critical thinking skills throughout their entire life? I tend to go with the second option. I don't want my children to ever not be able to trust me to tell them the truth in every situation. It used to be when I was a Christian that my reasoning for that was that I wanted them to trust me when I say that Jesus is real. And to me, I thought, if I tell them that Santa is real and then they find out that I was lying, then when I tell them that Jesus is real, how do they know that I'm telling them the truth? Now, obviously, that's not my reasoning, but it all comes back to lying for me. I don't want to lie to my children ever. So, I mean, that's just a dead end there. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of positive impact lying to them could have in, you know, critical thinking skills and stuff. I just don't want to lie. So I'll find a different way to teach them critical thinking skills.
Yeah. Agreed. The only downside, or I guess possible downside, is letting them have fun with it and get to experience that, like you said, magic of...
They still have fun with it.
Yeah.
They know it's pretend. That's the only difference, is they know it's pretend, whereas other kids think that it's real.
Yeah. And I'm not arguing from like my perspective, but like just the sake of the argument. That's what people's concern usually is that, you know, they'll be missing out on that part of childhood or whatever. So,
Right. Yeah. And I'm just saying that it's really not much that they're missing out on. I grew up not believing in Santa or the Easter Bunny, and I really don't think I missed out at all.
Yeah.
Like, it was fun. It actually made me feel really special when I met other kids who believed that stuff. And I could think to myself, I know the truth because my parents trust me enough and like respect me enough to tell me that it's not true. And I didn't ruin it for other kids. I never told them, you know, Santa's not real. Because my parents told me, like, hey, don't ruin it for other kids. Don't tell them the Santa isn't real. They'll figure it out on their own.
yeah.
And it's kind of rude to ruin that for them. But I did feel really special. Like, yeah, I don't believe in Santa because my parents trust me and respect me and want to tell me the truth on that.
Yeah. On the other end, I grew up believing in Santa and Easter Bunny, but it wasn't like a strong belief. It was just, you know, kind of fun. And I figured it out, I think, pretty early on, but I never, you know, thought to myself, oh, my parents were lying to me. I just thought, oh, this is just tradition, haha, you know, just have fun with it. So, I mean, I'm sure some kids might think that way, but as for like the argument against what if our kids grow up thinking we're liars to them, like, at least for me, that's not how I saw it coming out of it.
Yeah.
All right. This next question comes from Mark, and he's asking how we cope as atheists with the death of loved ones as opposed to in a religious society and what they believe. For us, or at least I guess for me, it's more of how did that person live? What kind of impact did they have while they were alive? Because, you know, now we don't believe in an afterlife. So what they do on earth is what's important. And then when someone close to you does die, a funeral is more like a celebration of their life and a little bit, you know, mourning, of course, you know, missing that person because as an atheist, we don't believe that we're going to see them again. But mostly focusing on, you know, their life and what they did while they were here. What do you think?
I think it'll be hard to know how I cope with that before I actually am put in the situation of coping with that. I can say what I think I would feel like or how I would experience it, but I can't know for sure how I would feel in that situation before actually experiencing it.
Yeah. So as long as I've known you, you haven't dealt with a whole lot of death, I don't think, right?
No, not really. Not tragic death, more like dying of old age,
Right.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I haven't had to deal with any since becoming atheist, so I'm not sure how that's gonna, you know, play out for me when it does happen. But we'll see. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, as far as like how I think I will feel about it, I think that it's going to be a lot harder as an atheist to deal with death than it was as a Christian. Because as a Christian, at least for most of the people in my life, I believed I would see them again. Although one aspect that will be a lot easier is losing someone who didn't believe or, you know, wasn't a Christian. Because if I would have lost Nate or my dad before, like after they had come out as atheists and before I became an atheist myself, that would have been absolutely, utterly devastating for me as a Christian.
That would have been the worst thing in the world.
Yeah. because it's completely out of your hands. There's nothing you can do to reverse, where their soul went upon death. It would just be absolutely horrible. I can't even fathom how I would feel. I mean, I would probably just question everything I believed, which is what I ended up doing anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know how anyone can handle that. Like Christians who lose people in their lives who weren't Christians, like, and you believe in hell. How do you cope with that? That's impossible. People say that being a Christian makes it easier to cope with death. Bullshit. Only if the person who died believes what you believe. So, I mean, yeah, in those cases, it's somewhat easier because you believe you'll see them again. But yeah, anyway, went off on a little tangent there.
Well, unless you're a Mormon, then if someone doesn't believe after they die, you can just baptize someone in their place.
Catholics believe in purgatory and all that stuff. I'm talking from my perspective.
Yeah, I know.
But as an atheist, I know that I won't see them again. It will be very difficult because I will grieve them a lot harder. The good thing about that is that you actually embrace your grief, or you can embrace it more fully and experience all of the pain without trying to mask it with these beliefs that, someday you'll see them. I don't know. I think that you can more fully go through the grieving process when you are basing your grief in reality rather than in fantasy.
Right.
And I can look at the person's life and appreciate the things that they've done and what they did with their one life here. Now, if it's a child, that's really difficult because they didn't have a lot of time on this earth, but I can still look at their life. Like, one person that we've lost as atheists is Sammy Bannister. Samantha Bannister, she
12 years
died of
old.
brain cancer last year, and she was one of the most wonderful human beings we have known. And we feel like there's a major hole missing in the world.
Yeah.
Because she's not here. But.
And it doesn't seem fair because, she was so young. She was 12 years old.
Yeah. But at the same time, we can grieve. We can miss her. We can love her. But we don't have to ask the question, why God?
Right.
That always made things so much harder when you lose someone tragically like that. And you're like, really? Why would you allow this, God? Like, you're a good God. Why would you take a 12-year-old beautiful girl from this world so early? I didn't have to ask those questions because I didn't believe that there was a God who allowed that to happen. It was just nature. It was just cancer. So I can move forward in my grieving process without anger.
Yeah.
Nick asks, are there any elements of religion that you miss now being an atheist? Yes. I miss the community aspect and I miss the worship songs. I actually thoroughly enjoyed that part.
Yeah.
Because we didn't sing like boring hymns and stuff. We sang songs that I actually loved, that I would listen to in my free time at home. But it was a really cool experience to gather with a bunch of people who believed the same things that I did and like cry out in song to the God that I loved. I used to be a worship dancer too, so I loved to dance and like kind of interpretive dance-ish, more like modern kind of dance. But it was like a big part of my life for a long time, and I used that as an expression of worship, and I kind of miss that. And I miss Bible studies and small groups where we would get together and just like dig into a book or just, share fellowship with each other. Like we have that kind of with atheist groups, but it's not as regular.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
not the same.
not like, when we went to our small group, it was to feed our souls, to feed ourselves spiritually. So we felt more of a push to do it. Whereas with atheist groups, there's not really the push to do it. We just do it when we feel like it. And a lot of times we're like worn out and exhausted and don't feel like it.
Right.
Or we can't find a babysitter, and there's not often childcare available. So it makes things a little bit more tricky.
But for us now, the cool thing is that refreshing feeling that we got like after a Bible study, a good Bible study, we can get that same feeling by like helping someone, volunteering, and it's a lot more practical and helpful to other people.
Yeah. We don't do that very often, though.
No.
The small group was more like a social thing.
Right.
And
I mean,
it was
volunteering
more
is social.
regular. It was a more regular thing, though, like
Right.
twice a month or whatever we did, once a week. We would get together, we would have snacks together, kind of catch up on each other's lives, and then, talk about whatever book we're reading. We would have homework, and we'd answer the questions in the past. Like, I don't know. I just really liked that aspect, and we don't have a lot of things like that. I mean, there's like book clubs and stuff.
Right,
It's just not the same feel.
But my point is that now, as atheists, we don't have Bible studies. Like, I mean, I guess we could, tear apart, some kind of book like Lawrence Krauss or whatever, which would be
not
very
tear
difficult.
it apart, just
like go
about
through it and discuss it.
Mm-hmm.
But since we don't really do that, like a cool alternative would be to volunteer or to help people out.
Yeah.
And you get that feeling of feeling good that you help someone. It's a refreshing feeling that it's similar to what you get from like a Bible study, but you're actually helping people.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you miss?
The community, the music, even though I'm not really a singer.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't like it, mainly because I'm not good at it, but I did thoroughly enjoy the music and like listening to it and being a part of it and just being in my own head, like enjoying it with community.
Mm-hmm.
So I miss that. I kind of miss, volunteering in the kids' rooms. That was always fun for me. I enjoyed that.
Yeah. I kind of miss seeing a magical aspect to everything in my life a little bit. Like when I would go on a walk and I would look around and admire the beauty of our world.
Yeah.
I had someone to talk to about it. Even when I was completely alone, like I had someone to say, wow, what a beautiful artist you are. Like how amazing is this world that you've crafted for us. And just that feeling of never being alone, but also seeing some beautiful, majestic meaning behind things.
Right.
I can still admire that and see beauty in the world without having the magic behind it. But I do kind of miss that like mystical, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's hard to explain. Like
I get what you mean.
I just had like this extra spiritual feeling about things that I don't anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's more like, wow, it's so cool that my DNA is similar to that tree over there.
Right.
Like that can be its own like existential thing in and of
that
itself.
tree could have been here like 500 years ago and seen some stuff that
Right.
It went down. But it's kind of funny because what I used to do? I used to be in the habit of like when I would wake up, I would say a prayer like as thanks to God, like all these, wonderful things like the amazing things you see outside, life, all kinds of good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, now we don't have anywhere to attribute that, like a person or a figure
Yeah.
besides, humans or us.
Yeah. It's weird now because if you want to have like positive thoughts like that in the morning, you can't really direct it at
Right.
anybody. It's more like just in your own mind, feeling grateful for those
Yeah.
things. But that's kind of harder to do because I used to, first thing in the morning think, okay, God, I want to start off my morning praising you for your wondrous creation. Thank you for giving me this breath in my lungs. I only have this breath because you've given it to me. And now it's
Right.
more like, oh, here's another day. Sure glad I'm alive.
Thank you, lungs, for still working. Yeah, it kind of goes along with what we were saying earlier about like the whole magic of Santa, like missing that part of it,
Yeah, I suppose.
It's kind of similar.
I never believed in Santa, so it's hard for me to make the connection.
Right, but you understand the possible magic that a kid could feel like believing in Santa, like Santa's giving you all these gifts and
Yeah.
it's just God is the adult version of Santa.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, so the next question is from Daniel. If you could alter the way any one subject is taught in public schools, how would you do that? You want me to take this one?
I mean, I have an answer, but you can go first if you want.
No, go ahead.
It's a toss-up between two different ones for me, I think. The first one would be sex education. I think that's a pretty important subject, especially with, the lack of education we have in certain areas where it's not taught. And therefore, if it's not taught, then people are having sex, unprotected sex, therefore STDs and babies and abortions. If you have a higher education rate on sex, you will have a lower pregnancy rate.
Teenage pregnancy rate.
Right. Therefore, lower abortion rate. And, a lot of people argue against abortion. Well,
that's one
throw in some sex education.
Right.
Educate the people on the right way to do it. Avoid those quote unquote mistakes. And yeah. But then the other one would be science. And along with that would be, evolution, critical thinking.
I agree. Those are the two things that I would have said.
Yes.
Well, I mean, those are like pretty obvious. I feel like we are slacking off big time with sex education in our school systems. Even the school systems that teach sex education, they focus more on the bad outcomes of sex than they do on actually like
prevention.
How to have good sex, like how to protect yourself and find a good partner, consent. Like all these things should be being taught, as well as, giving them the fear of STDs. Like I remember being taught in school about STDs and how to use condoms, things like that. Like I actually got more sex ed than a lot of like southern states get with
I did
their,
too.
Abstinence programs and stuff. We at least were taught, to use condoms and the bad outcomes that could happen. But what people really should be getting taught is consent and that sex can be good at the right time with the right person, and you have to be careful about that. Like it's being taught as this like dirty taboo thing instead of something that's just natural. And these kids should be being taught about LGBT stuff and kind of how to go about sex in those situations. And that those are also natural, normal ways to express your sexuality. Kids should be taught that dry humping is an option. Or, there's like all these things that could help these, young teenagers who are experiencing these hormones. They're going to have sex. Okay. We all know that. They're going to have sex. We need to teach them how and when and all that, and how to protect themselves.
And you can see that the areas of the country that teach abstinence only happen to be the parts of the country that have a higher teen pregnancy rate.
Yeah, an STD rate. It's a high enough correlation that you can imply causation. I mean, it's pretty extreme. And on your other point, the science education, that's another thing that we're lacking in. And especially teaching about evolution, biology,
climate change.
I feel like this younger generation is being taught more than anything to distrust science, that GMOs are bad, that natural remedies are good, that scientists are lying to you to make money, like vaccines are bad. All of this stuff is teaching our children that you can't trust scientists and the scientific method to tell you what is true and what is not true. And that's just not a good way to raise up our next generation. We need to be teaching them that the scientific method is how you discern what is true and what isn't. And I feel like our education system is failing big time in that area.
I think part of the problem too is with the information age these days, people can look up anything they want on the internet. But the problem is not everything they look up is true or right. So they're looking up information that could be bad information instead of, trusting scientists. And the information they're reading is saying, all right, scientists are saying this is bad, this is wrong. So people are, that's why people aren't trusting scientists these days. Like, how many websites can you go on and find anti-vax information? Mm-hmm. Like, it's not scientific.
It's easier to find that information than it is to find the good, peer-reviewed scientific.
And it's easier to digest. But you know what I mean? Like, people can find any information online, whether it's true or false.
Yeah, and there's a lot of pseudoscientific stuff out there now.
Right.
Like, right there at your fingertips, persuading you.
Yeah.
And sounding scientific.
Yeah. So that's where critical thinking skills come into play.
Right. And if you have been taught your whole life that the biggest things in your life that you believe in are based on faith and not actual facts, it's hard to have good critical thinking skills. It's hard to develop those because the biggest belief in your life is based on not those things.
True that. All right, we have one more question.
The last question is kind of a big one. We're not going to be able to totally explain this, but we'll give it
our best shot.
Yeah. So this comes from David. He says, where does morality come from? This is a question that we get a lot from Christians who are trying to prove to us that there has to be a God for morality to exist. The easy way to answer this is that it's a product of our evolution. But I know that there's a more detailed explanation for where morality actually came from and why it's a product of our evolution. I'm not intelligent enough to explain all that to you. there are places you can go to get that information. So there are people way more educated on the subject that could talk about, how morality actually came to be. But that's more of a scientific question rather than being an existential, spiritual question. As animals, which we are, we have developed skills to keep our species alive. And morality just works into that. Like, we had to discover ways to work together as creatures, as human beings who want to further our, species. But something that is kind of interesting is that a lot of religious people will say that without their religious book or without their God, we couldn't have morality. But then you look at the Bible, and the Bible is filled with immorality that God condoned. And it doesn't make any sense to gather your morality from a book that is so horribly immoral. I look at the Bible and I look at God's character and I think to myself, I'm a better person. I'm a more moral, ethical person than this God that I'm supposed to worship. And it all falls apart. You look at the 10 Commandments, they could be a hell of a lot better than what they are. The first few are about, worshiping God above everything else. And then the rest of them are just like, oh, duh.
Yeah.
Like, where in there does it say that owning human beings is a bad idea? Where does it say rape? You shouldn't rape.
There's two good examples. Like, just to quickly talk about owning people, slavery. The Bible tells you how to own a slave, how to treat them, how to beat them so that they don't die. Do we still think it's moral to own slaves and beat people? No. So that part of morality has evolved.
Yeah. Even
Rape.
within Christianity, it has evolved.
Yeah. And like you said, rape. If a woman was raped, something about her...
I know this one, I think, a little bit better.
Yeah. Like buying...
It was if a man raped a virgin, then he needed to pay her father 50 shekels of silver to purchase her as his wife. So basically, this young girl who was raped would be forced to marry her rapist. Like, there's just a plethora of these examples throughout, especially the Old Testament. Not to say that it's only the Old Testament that is immoral. There's plenty of immorality in the New Testament. You just have to actually look at it objectively and think to yourself, do I actually agree with this? Like, does my morality match up to what this text is saying? And for the most part, no.
Yeah.
Or my morality takes it a step further. Like the golden rule, for instance, everyone looks at that as being like this beautiful moral thing that was taught in the Bible. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Really, what you should do is do unto others as they want done unto them. So we've reached a new level of morality, of recognizing that it's not just, you don't just treat people the way you want to be treated. You treat them how they want to be treated. So our understanding and our morality and our ethics is constantly evolving and expanding and growing and understanding. Whereas you've got this book and these, guidelines for how you're supposed to live based on ancient times.
Yeah.
Where these guys, they had no fucking clue, and we're supposed to just take what they said as the end all be all of truth.
Right.
Makes absolutely no sense. So yeah, morality is a tricky subject. It's hard to explain how the evolution happens to create morality within human beings. One thing I can tell you for absolute certain, it did not come from the Bible. It did not come from the Quran.
there might be some, good ideas in there that we may have expanded upon and evolved from, even since then. But as a whole, the structure of morality from the Bible is not these days considered moral.
It's a load of crap. That's what it is. It's a load of crap.
That's what I was going for. But yeah, to lightly touch on that question, I mean, it's a deep philosophical question that we cannot fully answer or comprehend in this episode. So
One of the
hopefully that'll do for now.
Yeah. And one of the questions we got, which we're not going to go into a whole lot of detail about, was about whether or not we believe that it's okay to punch a Nazi. We're just going to throw it out there. We do not believe that it's okay to punch a Nazi. We're not going to get into all the details about that. But if you want to know our stance on it, no, don't punch the Nazis. That's not how you solve the problem.
Yeah.
There have been plenty of people who have talked in more detail and more intelligently on the subject, like No Illusions of Scathing Atheists. Just go listen to him. He's got all the answers on that.
Or the whole pillow hands on cognitive dissonance.
No, because he was suggesting that you punch Nazis.
No, but that episode was about that.
Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, Ishmael Brown apparently thinks you should punch Nazis. We disagree. We disagree with that. So thanks, Johnny, for the question, jerk.
Not taking the bait.
Stirring shit to get fans.
Even though we did kind of take the bait.
We totally did. We totally did.
You took the bait.
Only for a hot minute.
All right. Well, I think we've answered all of the serious questions, at least.
Yeah. Let's move on to thanking our patrons.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much. For those of you who support us financially, it's huge to us.
Huge help.
Makes a big difference. And it makes us feel really special that you would actually put money towards this new project we have. So we want to give a shout out to a few of our patrons who are at a level where they get to plug whatever they want at the end of every episode. The first one is Rich. He would like to plug Recovering from Religion. I've talked about this on, I think, every single episode we've done so far. So you should all be familiar with Recovering from Religion at this point. But if you're not yet, or if this is the first episode you're listening to, recoveringfromreligion.org is where you want to go. Check out their organization. You can become a volunteer for the Helpline Project. Also, if you are dealing with a hard time, you can call the helpline or the chat line. You don't call the chat line. You click the little bubble at the bottom of the page and you can talk to a real life person who can help you through and give you resources. I
know for a lot of people, talking on the phone is a problem and stressful. So the chat feature is a huge help.
Yeah, super awesome.
Our next patron is Justin, and he wants us to plug Atheists Fight Hunger. They're going to be working with a nonprofit program called Outreach to organize a food packaging event to be held at PastaCon in Philly. And that's going to be on October 13th through 15th this year. In 2015, they raised $7,500 and fed 30,000 people at 25 cents a meal. So their current goal is $10,000. They're currently at $1,700, so they have a bit more to raise. So if you want to help feed some hungry people, this is a good organization to help out with.
Our third patron that we want to give a plug for is Thomas Smith. And he is the host of Serious Inquiries Only and Opening Arguments. He wants us to plug Serious Inquiries Only, which is his podcast where he takes a critical look into science, philosophy, skepticism, and politics. And he invites on awesome people to interview. Sometimes he invites on less than awesome people to debate. And it's a really great podcast. And he's a good friend of ours. So go check him out.
I think that about does it for our episode tonight. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we're done.
Yeah. This one might be our longest episode yet.
Maybe. We have a lot of editing to do.
Yeah.
We were kind of a hot mess tonight. But we hope you guys come back next week. And in the meantime,
Keep it real.